Hi, it's David McNally, and looking for things to keep myself busy and out of trouble between now and Election Day. And it's a rainy evening, so I thought I'd share my political button collection. That seems like a fairly safe thing to do. So I'm going to start down here. These are my pre-1960 buttons. This is probably my oldest one. You can't even read it's that dark round circle. It says Whigs of 76 on it. The antique dealer thought it was probably from 1844. I got this as a birthday present from Maureen Kane and Diane Lombardi, probably in the late 80s, early 90s. They bought it at an antique dealer up near where the D-Tech Club used to be, up the road from the Capitol. A lot of my buttons aren't really worth anything, but they have a lot of sentimental value for me. These are the older ones. You can see Wilson and some Roosevelts, and there's a Taft button. I worked in Ohio for about 6 weeks. Pick that up. Wilkie, Hoover, some Roosevelt ones. This is kind of funny. This is a hat. It says Harrison on it. Somebody gave it to me. They thought it was a button, but I actually think it's a button for a brand of of overalls. But I put it in there anyway. What the heck? And Truman, and here we are into the 50s. And Ike and Adlai Stevenson. So those are my pre-9. Oh, there's a Warren Harding one over there, a little darkened, but still that's what it is, and Hoover. So those are my pre-1960. Now we're going to go into the 60s. This is 60, 64, 68. You can see some ribbons there from the Kennedy inauguration that my parents and grandparents went to. And some jewelry. My grandmother had some political jewelry. There's a PT boat, a tie clip of Kennedy's, and a rocking chair pin. Not sure what this was doing in the family jewelry, but that's a Goldwater elephant with glasses. I don't know where that came from, actually. And Keep Dick on the Job and Goldwater. And you can see here's Bobby Kennedy when they were moving the age from 21 to 18 to vote. It's a sarcastic, I'd vote for you if I were 10. So lots of... You can't really see that button very well, but that's a New York Pharmacists for Humphrey, which is a really interesting local button, I thought. So that's in there, but it's fallen down. So those are the 60s. Now we're going to move into the 70s, the early 70s. This is 72 and 76. I remember, apologize for that lighting there. I remember this button when my brother brought it home from McGovern headquarters one night from Glens Falls. The collection started out as his, and so a lot of these McGovern ones are ones he added. And then we move into the 76 and Ford and Dole. There's a peanut necklace. And there's some inaugural buttons as well. And so that's 72 and 76. And then in 1980, we had, of course, Anderson running as a independent. I liked Anderson. I'm sorry the nation couldn't figure out how to work together. And of course, Kennedy was primary Carter. And then, of course, Reagan beat everybody. And these are inaugural pins and that my mother asked one of the Moriarty twins to pick up in Washington, and they did when they gave them to her. So that's kind of a nice memory to have. And then, of course, we have 84, Gary Hart, Mondale. Didn't really matter. Landslide by Reagan in 84. And then in 88, it was an open, he couldn't run for a third term, so we had a lot of Democrats, a lot of Republicans running. This is the first year I actually went to New Hampshire for a weekend to hang out. Actually, I did some volunteer work for Paul Simon up there a couple weekends. And you can see all the Paul Simon buttons from both my volunteering in New Hampshire, but I also ran as the alternate to a delegate slate to the convention for Paul Simon, but he dropped out before we got to New York, so I didn't even get a chance to vote for myself. And of course, here's 88. Dukakis Benson against Bush. And that's how that all ended up. So that's 1988. And then in 1992, we have Bush Quayle running against Clinton. And here earlier in the primary, Jerry Brown was running. And of course, Ross Perot was running in the general. So we had the 92 that Bill Clinton won. And you can see a lot of the variations of the Clinton-Gore button, that red stripes and the blue bar on the bottom. And 92 was also the first inauguration I went to. Actually, not the ceremony, but Fred Ebert and I jumped in the car and went down for a few days of pre-inaugural activity. It was just a ball being on the mall and seeing everything, the ringing of the bells as they crossed over the bridge from Virginia into Washington. And so I picked up a lot of buttons from Inauguration 92 in Washington. What a great trip that was. And then in 96, you had Republican field wide open, so you had all sorts of people running. Keyes, Dole, Specter. Boy, what an ageist button that is, huh? Dole is 96. Lugar, Maury Taylor, of course, Dole won. Went on to get beaten by Bill Clinton and Gore. That's 96. Those are some Clinton-Gore earrings I picked up somewhere along the way. So that's 96. And then in 2000, we go up here to, of course, that's the Gore v. Bush, where Gore won the popular vote, Bush won the inaugural college. There's some official Florida voting machine with about the hanging chads. So that's 2000. And let's see, 2004 was Bush for re-election, and the Democrats had a big primary. Hillary Clinton, John Dean, General Clark, John Edwards, John Kerry. So that was in what year are we on? 2004. That's right. And then in 2008, of course, was the year of Barack Obama's victory. Lots of Obama buttons. He beat Hillary in the primary. And lots of New York, lots of buttons. New York buttons, Irish for Obama, Catholic for Obama, dogs for Obama. So I had a lot of them. And then Claire and I went to the 2008 inauguration. I by then learned not to just buy every button I found for inauguration, so I got a few select ones there. So that is 2008. And then in 2012, it's Barack Obama up for re-election against Mitt Romney. And here's some of those buttons. There's some Obama. That one's a takeoff, of course, on Mad Men, which was on at the time. And so that's 2012. I don't see any 2012 inauguration. I'm sure I went to it, but I don't see any. So, all right, so now we're going to move on to 2012, 2016. And here we are in 2016, Bernie and Hillary. And you can see Claire and I went to Philadelphia, the convention. We didn't really get to see much or go in, but we did go down and drive around, saw a few things, so that was fun. And that brings us to now, which I'm just now getting to my 2020 buttons. I don't have many. I didn't go to New Hampshire this year. And basically I got a few Biden and a few Mike Bloomberg ones, but that's about it. But I'm hoping to find some along the way. So those are my presidential buttons. And now we'll take a look at my, this is a case of buttons from people who ran statewide in New York. It's hard to see, but there's an Averill Harriman earring of my grandmother's. And different people ran for governor, ran for U.S. Senate. You can take your pick. Any statewide office that I had a button of, I put in this. That Cuomo 94 button, Gary Searcy made those up, and I sold some of them at the Democratic Convention that year in Buffalo. And you can just see the Senate and presidential, attorney general, state controller buttons. A couple of my grandfather ribbons from his various state conventions he attended. I think this one's from 1909. He didn't attend that one. I don't know where that one came from, but still fun to have. And here are some medallions, ribbons from the Buffalo convention. My sister just posted a picture of herself as probably a 2-year-old at that convention wearing one of those. So that's kind of neat to have as well. So those are statewide New York State buttons. And then the final case I have is over here. These are people who ran in New York, but in districts that were not statewide. Assembly and Congress and some councilmen. You'll see some folks here. You can 42 plus 1. There's a story behind that in the assembly. I can't remember whose race it was. They won by 42. Then they won. They had to add one, and I think they even added one after that. Longo will know for sure if he sees this. And you can see different buttons. There's Bill McGee. He ran several times through the assembly, finally won on his third try. So you can see all of his buttons there. There's Sue Bartle's mother for Senate. Ryan DeStito, lots of friends who ran over the years, or campaigns I worked on, or friends who worked on their campaigns. There's Jim Talon, of course, my last boss in the state assembly. That was a fun race. And there's Kevin McManus. I know he's on Facebook. Maybe he'll see himself. Ran for the assembly. And all sorts of congressional and state legislative races. These two are Ned Pattison's. They're very sentimental to me. I made a great friend on that campaign. It was the first campaign I worked on outside of my hometown. And so those buttons, again, not very valuable, but they mean a lot to me. So anyway, that's my button collection as I have it currently. Some of my best favorite buttons aren't really, again, not a large monetary value, but they all do have a story. I know one of the Kennedy buttons Lucy Mullane gave to me because she was cleaning her house before she went in a nursing home. And I can recall many buttons from many friends over the years, and it's always fun to get them and hear the stories behind them. So that's it. That's my button collection, and I want to remind everyone to get out and vote on Tuesday. Take care.